So yeah, we managed to get the door unlocked to come into the space that was the School of Engineering workshop on the Massey University campus in Wellington, and it's raining heavily. It's been raining heavily for hours. There's puddles everywhere and it's cold, and there's a real sense of, I don't know, sort of, I feel sad standing here in this space which has now got bits of computers and photocopies and beautiful old machines that were here when I was here and are still here, waiting for some new proposition, new lease on life. Someone, you know, I feel like going, I picked something up from this space and took it elsewhere, and there's things that remain here that got left here, and so I think there's something poignant about that. Yeah. I was in here with a group of students. We were looking at the ways that metal can be tempered. Mike and Peter, the technicians here in the engineering school, were heating up steel, dunking it into a tank of oil. And the question came up, what's the oil? And they very quickly said, it's whale oil. So my curiosity sort of peaked at that point. It's not what you expect here. You don't, in 2011, I guess, hear of whale oil being available all of a sudden right next door to where you're working. And there was quite a lot of it. And the process of getting it out of the tank, you know, it was this lovely, horny, viscous thing, material. And that process, it was siphoned out into a barrel, and I stored it in the School of Fine Arts workshop, not knowing what I wanted to do with it, but knowing that it had some properties I was interested in, and knowing that there was something potentially romantic or mystical I was applying to this particular substance. The project started with an ending, if you like, I think of it that way, and then a series of endings continue through it from a number of people. There are the curator I was working with at the Government Brewster Art Gallery, they went through a restructure and her position ended. Both the guys I was in contact with closely at Wholesome Cement, they both was restructured and they're no longer at Wholesome Cement. And Wholesome Cement then has pulled out of actually going to be, they're not going to be manufacturing cement in New Zealand anymore. So Westport Works, the cement plant, will also cease, will be decommissioned. So there's been this really remarkable sense of the whale oil leading a series of closures or losses, and I think that's something that's maybe not well known about the project. It's documented in and out of the writing, and some of my writing refers to that. But it's increasingly, in hindsight now, there's something. I think there's a strong vein that runs through the project that is about that loss, and a series of sort of goodbyes to things. I think. So, but that could always be, that. I have a romantic nature, and that could be a certain spin on it. And in other ways, it has a very practical and very, it moves through a world of business, like as a force, and manages to achieve something, and manages to get things done, one thing after another. So those things are friction in the work, that sense of melancholy and that sense of pragmatism, I think, in the project. Yeah. So the whale oil was tested in 2 avenues. I took 2 little sample bottles. I posted one to Peter Carano in Whangarei. He's an old whaler from a long-established whaling family that were whaling in the Marlborough Sounds. I'd been put in touch with him, and then the other one got sent to ESR in Christchurch to a scientist called Darren Saunders. They both did their own testing, fatty acid profiles, I think, on one hand, and what I call the sniff and scratch test at Peter's, in Peter's terrain up in Northland. And Peter came back first with the conclusion from a few friends and himself that it wasn't whale oil. And then I said that to Darren, and Darren said, okay, I'm going to just do a slightly cheaper test. And he concluded quite quickly, he said, no, It's not whale oil. It's mineral oil, high grade, but it's mineral oil. Yeah. So, and what I became interested in was the sense of disappointment and deflation around that moment. Not only my own, but Darren's and Peter's. And that's what was a trigger for me. And that was also the important part in that I used a phrase that Peter Pirano gave me, which was, but if you find the good oil, let us know, in an email. And I took that as the title. And that became a hugely important phrase and provocation. And then the project, again, with that bloody mindedness to go, I'm left now with a substance that I thought was one thing and is now another thing. I'm still a custodian for it. I still have some responsibility of if I want to dispose of it, and what then does that entail? A new set of questions around what can be done, what can emerge, and then the other part of that is that for one reason and another, the whaleness never left, lurked, stayed there.